Is he smug? Is he cocky?
Yeah, he is.
That's the mark of a winner.
He was called the model for a reason, but Rick Martel's story is way more than just good looks. Today we will expose all his tag team politics, his controversial cologne, and of course, how WWE denied him of the Hall of Fame. Let's find out how and why all this happened. Rick Martel, known as the Model, was a Canadian-born superstar who left a crazy deep mark on the world of professional wrestling. Martel's career grew for decades and took him across the globe. He wrestled for major promotions like the American Wrestling Association, the World Wrestling Federation, and World Championship Wrestling. He was and is still known for his incredible athleticism, his sharp wit, and his signature move, the Boston Crab. I bet you remember that move. Not only this, he battled legends like Curt Hennig, Sting, and Tito Santana. This guy was the total package. With his chiseled physique, flowing blonde hair, and undeniable in-ring talent, Rick Martel was a superstar in every sense of the word. But his journey was also marked by controversy, backstage disputes, and questionable gimmicks. Let's start with the Can-Am Connection. The Can-Am Connection was supposed to be the tag team of the late 80s. Rick Martel and Tom Zenk had it all: youth, talent, and a high-flying style that got fans on their feet. For a while, it looked like they were on the verge of taking over the wrestling world. And then, out of nowhere, it all fell apart. What happened? Well, that's still up for debate. Backstage rumors at the time painted a messy picture. Some people said Martel was too ambitious, maybe even a bit of a control freak. Others claimed Zenk was frustrated with his role and felt like he wasn't getting his due. Whatever the truth, Zenk left the WWF without much explanation, leaving fans scratching their heads and wondering what might have been. Martel didn't miss a beat, though. He reinvented himself as the Model, a cocky pretty boy with a spray bottle full of arrogance cologne. The gimmick worked. It was flashy, over the top, and perfect for the era. But let's be honest, spraying people in the eyes with something called arrogance? Yeah, that wouldn't fly today. Back then, though, fans ate it up. Wrestling was wild, and characters like Martel's made it even wilder. Of course, Martel's career wasn't just about gimmicks. He was a solid wrestler, one of the best technicians of his time. His feud with Jake the Snake Roberts, sparked by the whole arrogance angle, was one of the highlights of his WWF run. And don't forget his success outside the WWF, with championship wins in the AWA and WCW. But like a lot of wrestlers in the 80s and 90s, he faced some tough realities, one of them being steroid use. Martel admitted to using steroids during his career, and honestly, it wasn't shocking. Back then, having a superhero physique wasn't just encouraged, it was practically a requirement. The pressure was insane, and for many wrestlers, steroids felt like the only way to keep up. Of course, we know now how dangerous that was. The long-term health risks, the scandals, it left a dark cloud over wrestling during that era. Martel's admission is just one of many reminders of how far the industry has come since then, but it's also a reminder of the lengths wrestlers went to just to stay relevant. Then there's the Hall of Fame debate. Martel's had a solid career, championships, memorable feuds, iconic moments, but despite all that, he's still not in the WWE Hall of Fame. Why not? Fans have been asking the same question for years. Some say it's because he didn't quite reach the same level of superstardom as some of his peers. Others wonder if the steroid stuff plays a role. Either way, it's a touchy subject for a lot of wrestling fans. So here's the question. Should Rick Martel be inducted? A lot of people think he should be. He was a great wrestler, technically sound, and his character work was top-notch. Others think his career, while good, just didn't have that Hall of Fame spark. Whatever side you're on, one thing's clear. Rick Martel made his mark on wrestling. Sure, his legacy is complicated, but that's true for a lot of legends from his era. Whether or not he ever gets that Hall of Fame nod, the Model is a name wrestling fans won't forget anytime soon. These days, Rick Martel is enjoying life outside of wrestling. He's done with wrestling matches and spends his time with his family and doing business. He lives in Quebec City, Canada, with his wife and daughter. He owns some buildings and makes money from them, which is something smart he did while he was still wrestling. He seems happy to be done with wrestling and likes to travel with his family. Even though he's not wrestling anymore, lots of wrestling fans still remember him. He sometimes goes to wrestling events and is thankful for his time as a wrestler. He might not be in the Hall of Fame yet, but he was a great wrestler that people won't forget. Speaking of never forgetting, for the real fans of Rick Martel, here is a quick rundown of his epic wrestling career. Rick Martel, born Richard Vigneault on March 18, 1956 in Quebec City, Canada, seemed destined for the wrestling ring. Growing up in a sports-loving family, wrestling became his passion early on. His older brother, Michel Martel, was already making waves as a wrestler, and Rick wanted to follow in his footsteps. By his late teens, he was training hard and ready to jump into the world of professional wrestling. His natural athleticism and drive made him stand out right away. Martel's wrestling journey began in the 1970s on the independent circuit in Canada and the US. He quickly earned a reputation for his technical skills and magnetic personality. One of his first big breaks came in New Zealand's All-Star Pro Wrestling, where he snagged his first championship. That victory was just the beginning. By the late 70s, Martel had joined the World Wrestling Association and later the American Wrestling Association, two major promotions at the time. It was in the AWA that he really started to shine, capturing the AWA World Heavyweight Championship in 1984. This was a huge milestone and proved he was ready for the big leagues. Martel's success in the AWA caught the eye of the World Wrestling Federation, and by the mid-1980s, he was part of Vince McMahon's growing empire. At first, he glowed as a tag team specialist, teaming with Tony Garea to win multiple WWF Tag Team Championships. Fans loved his clean-cut, athletic style, and his technical abilities earned him respect in the locker room. Then came the Can-Am connection. Teaming up with Tom Zenk in the late 80s, Martel became part of one of the most exciting tag teams of the era. Their high-energy style and undeniable chemistry made them instant fan favorites. It seemed like they were destined for greatness, but behind the scenes, tensions were brewing. Zenk left the WWF abruptly, citing frustrations with backstage politics. The team's sudden breakup left fans scratching their heads, and Martel had to pivot. Then came the tragic fall. In 1989, Martel took a bold step and completely reinvented himself. Enter the Model, a cocky, self-absorbed heel who strutted around with his signature arrogance cologne spray. The gimmick was flashy, over-the-top, and divisive. Some fans loved the theatrics, others thought it was too much. Either way, it kept Martel in the spotlight and gave him a chance to show off his acting chops. While the Model was memorable, Martel's singles career never quite reached the same heights as his tag team days. He had notable feuds like his rivalry with Jake the Snake Roberts, which revolved around the arrogance storyline. But he often found himself overshadowed by WWF's larger-than-life stars like Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, and The Ultimate Warrior. Adding to the challenges was the steroid controversy that plagued wrestling in the late 80s and early 90s. Like many wrestlers of his time, Martel admitted to using steroids to maintain the chiseled physique that the industry demanded. While this didn't derail his career, it became part of a larger conversation about the immense pressures wrestlers faced. As the 1990s rolled on, Martel's time in the WWF started winding down. He explored new opportunities in other promotions and found success in World Championship Wrestling. In 1998, he captured the WCW World Television Championship, proving he could still compete at a high level. However, injuries began to take their toll, and by the late 90s, Martel was transitioning out of full-time wrestling. Even after stepping away from the ring, Martel stayed connected to the business. He made occasional appearances in independent promotions and WWE events, and he began mentoring younger wrestlers. Sharing the wisdom he'd gained over decades, Martel became a respected figure behind the scenes. Coming to his legacy, Rick Martel's career was full of ups and downs, but his impact on professional wrestling is undeniable. From his early days as a tag team specialist to his flamboyant run as the Model, he entertained fans around the world and left his mark on the industry. His work in the tag team division during the WWF's golden era remains a highlight, and his adaptability kept him relevant through changing times. Still, there's one big question that fans can't stop asking. Why isn't Rick Martel in the WWE Hall of Fame? Many believe his achievements, both in tag teams and as a singles competitor, deserve recognition. Others argue that while his career was strong, it lacked the iconic moments needed for Hall of Fame status. Whatever side you're on, one thing is clear. Rick Martel's legacy is complex, but it's also unforgettable. In the end, Rick Martel's story is about resilience, reinvention, and passion for the sport. Whether he's remembered as a technical wizard, a tag team star, or the Model, his place in wrestling history is secure. And that wraps up our dive into the incredible career of Rick Martel, the Model. From dominating tag teams to his unforgettable run with the arrogance spray bottle, Martel's legacy is one of passion, resilience, and reinvention. Whether you cheered for him, booed him, or just admired his skills, there's no denying his impact on wrestling history. What do you think? Should Rick Martel be in the WWE Hall of Fame? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more wrestling stories and deep dives. Hit that bell icon so you never miss a new upload. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay awesome.